Hi everyone, it's Erkan Ali here with Shulagh Jacobs, and this is our part two of a entrepreneurship, can it change the world conversation. I think we did almost over 50-minute conversation last time, didn't we, Shulagh? We just felt like we didn't get deep enough into it, and we've done a part two. So welcome to the call. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you. We haven't done. I feel like it's been 2 weeks, maybe longer.
It feels like longer.
It does. It feels like the world.
It feels like an age.
So much is happening in the world every day that it's 24 hours, and who knows, right? The world just changes again. So I'm here in location in Hertford town. We have a store here, a little dry cleaning business that's been part of my family business since 1995, and I set it up when I got back from travelling. In 94, I went travelling, and in 95, I set up this business, which was an extension of a family business. And as I was saying to Shulagh earlier, I grew up as a child as an entrepreneur in an entrepreneurial family, an immigrant family that was entrepreneurial. And I'll say a bit more about my father and why that was some great lessons for me. And it gave me a very different outlook on life to, say, most of my friends and people around me. But on the same time, you're saying that you didn't have anything like that in your growing up, Shulagh?
No, both my parents worked kind of fairly standard jobs, like 9 to 5. My mum did a bit part-time. I came through the sort of normal school system, went to art college, and it was very much expected that I would leave and get a job. And then when I did leave, suddenly realised that art graduates weren't really considered to be that employable.
Yeah.
And having been to university and not really they didn't teach you any of the business side of selling your work. I think maybe we did like one sort of half-hour seminar or something, but other than that, there was no real instruction or guidance on how to approach galleries and negotiate prices for your work, and even how to put a value on it.
Do you think that's quite a British thing? Because we don't talk money, and sales is we don't like sales. We don't like to talk about money in British culture. Do you think that's part of it, or do you think there's more to it than that?
I think it's a big part of it, but I think there are other issues as well, all tied up in that, and a lot of it relates to not really knowing how to value yourself. I think I certainly strongly felt, as I was going through that whole kind of art student journey, I felt a lot of guilt about pursuing my passions, that somehow it wasn't as legitimate as, doing a proper career like a doctor or something like that. And so because of that, I felt that it was wrong to actually charge money for the work that I did.
Yeah, and I think if you think about art as an example, it's a very right brain, heart activity, as opposed to, I'd say, money and managing money and accounting, and it's a far more left brain activity. And funny enough, our education system is far more weighted in the left brain, but yet sales and money management is very rarely discussed. I don't remember being at school where they say, "Okay, kids, today we're going to talk about how to create passive incomes and be financially free by the time you're 25. We never had that conversation. I'm like, when are we going to have that conversation? Because that's one that's really interesting.
Never existed on the curriculum.
No, I remember them always telling me about being prepared to get a job and when I'm going to get a job. And I said, I want a job. What do I want a job for? And I'd never thought, one, I'd ever want one, and two, I couldn't imagine anyone would employ me. I just never thought they would. What would you give me a job? You'd have to be scraping the barrel if you want to give me, because I've always thought myself, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs consider themselves unemployable at a level.
I do.
I mean, because they're not really told. Yeah, they're not really told what to do. They've probably got a better idea of how to do it than the boss or the owners would. And that's why they go off and do it. They go and do it themselves in the way that they think is the right way or the best way or the way they want to do that. But I think entrepreneurship is a very maybe the last video I came a bit negative about it. I didn't mean to. I'm not anti-entrepreneurship. I think it's a really vibrant and viable way of providing value in a community. I think the question we're asking is, will entrepreneurship change the world? And that's where in my own journey, I felt, no, I don't think it does change the world. I don't think it changes the paradigm. It's just a way of operating within the paradigm that is probably better than some. Actually, going back to your example of ordinary jobs and my background, is this kind of story of rich dad, poor dad. I don't know if you know the Robert Kiyosaki fables about having two dads, and one was he was a university lecturer and a teacher and very much in the job mindset, and his other dad was a very entrepreneurial wealth builder kind of mindset, and they're very different worlds, very different postures. And quite often in schools, I'd say that I mean, I can speak for myself, I think it's probably better, but in my experience when I was at school, my entrepreneurial desires or passions were something that, one, the teachers didn't even understand, and two, we never talked about it. I mean, that may be different today, but it was kind of like you left school, you did some further education or higher education, and then you got a job, or you left school and got an apprenticeship. And that was what we were that was the narrative we were kind of fed. And I'm like, I ain't gonna do either of those.
Yeah, going back to what you were saying about being unemployable, having gone through various stages of mundane jobs, and and I just came out with this overwhelming feeling of never wanting to do that again.
And what to what age or what stage in your life did you go through the job, and then you went and you kind of came to this point where you thought to yourself, no, I want to do something that's important to me and something that's about my passion and my self-expression, as opposed to working for a living and just making money?
I guess the lowest point was when I was at college. In the summer holidays, I was working in Bury St Edmunds, not all that far from where I am now, staying with mum and dad. And one of the biggest industries in the local area is poultry processing.
Wow.
So I had numerous jobs in several of these establishments, and it was just kind of the default place to go when I left, because I had student debt, I had things that just needed to get making money straight away. And if there was such a place as hell on earth, then
Really?
that would be it. Yeah. And having gone through that, and it was a long journey from there. I moved back down to Essex eventually because the employment prospects were better there. I managed to get a job for a firm which was called London Pride, and they were one of the first companies to run the open-top sightseeing buses in London.
Nothing to do with the brewery, London Pride?
Nothing to do with the brewery, no.
I bet you get asked, so you said London Pride, I thought, it would have been good to know you back then. Yeah, so I imagine that sounds interesting.
It was a fun job. It was a small family firm, and they had a fleet of buses based in Essex, but every day they used to trundle the buses up to London, and I was basically what you would call a pavement tout to start off with, handing out leaflets, and it was there I kind of overcame my fear of engaging with the general public, and it was a case of you would stand and wait outside these tourist attractions like the Tower of London, places like that, on the appointed bus stops, and then try and bribe people to pay you money to get on the bus. There,
great lesson to learn. That. I mean,
it was
that, and I think things like it's something I did as a student as well, is waitering or waitressing, because it forces you to talk to people from cold, create a dialogue, build some rapport. I mean, fantastic skills to have. I mean, really great skills.
One of the funniest moments I remember from back then was I was talking to a bunch of American tourists one day, and they were looking to book a tour for like the whole family. So the guy said to me, "Oh, how long does the tour last? So I said, oh, it's an hour and a half. What's that in American time?
And your answer? 90 minutes, sir. It's 90 minutes.
But it was hilarious. I mean, we had such a laugh.
Yeah. How long did you do that for?
I was there, I guess, for about 3-4 years. I got promoted in the end. And so the second job I did there was what they call agency sales. And this was where I was going around all the hotels and the newsagents and all the external establishments that would sell the tickets to their customers. So I was literally just walking around London, waiting on street corners, visiting hotels, which sounds really bad. But
yeah. Well, I walk on street corners in the book. Yeah, no, it was a fantastic Kelly Everett joke, and he was dressed up as a woman, and he says, like a woman of the night, and he says, I make about 10,000 a year more than Margaret Thatcher. She's obviously standing on the wrong streets. I always remember that joke, Kenny Everett. So this idea of selling, I think it's something that's quite associated with entrepreneurship. And I don't mean salesperson. I mean selling an idea or getting people's buy-ins. It was definitely part of my growing up, is getting people to buy into something, whether it was buy my product or do business with us, or let's do something together. Kind of this kind of collaborative stroke. The best word I could say is, there's one term called is enrollment, getting people to buy into some concept and having the linguistic skills to explain what that would be and how it would work, and being able to communicate with people that they get the idea. So it's kind of like, the idea is here, and then you boom, and then suddenly it travels to someone else and someone else. Again, a very charismatic, dynamic skill that I don't ever recall, again, that being something that we were encouraged at school, is having dynamic personalities, but rather instructional kind of personalities. Management or business or the business of running a school was you were given instructions, and then you exercise, you obeyed those instructions, as opposed to having ideas and getting people to buy into ideas and sharing concepts. Wasn't something that I remember at school.
No, me neither. It was very much of.
Sorry, it was écoute et répéter. Here's a unit of information, learn it, and then at the appropriate time when we ask you, you repeat that back again. And I found that incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, it was just about memorising the right information for exams and regurgitating it when necessary.
But just to compare that to what I consider as a very valuable entrepreneurial skill, is the ability to bring a vision into reality, or share an idea such that other people can buy into it and for themselves. Not this idea of selling someone an idea where you kind of close someone into something, but actually they bought in it for themselves. I think that's entrepreneurial. I think that's a real...
Yeah, I mean, how you describe selling as, in the context of a salesperson and closing, it sounds quite coercive.
Yeah.
Whereas I think...
Sorry, Carol.
I think as I practice selling in my business, it's very much about, telling a story around what it is you do and connecting on a sort of person-centered level with the individual, rather than forcing them to do anything.
Yeah.
I think if you're thinking about trying to bully someone or persuade them to do something that they aren't necessarily naturally going to want to do anyway, then you're losing right from the start.
I think the other thing that I found, because obviously my background working with so many businesses and helping them develop their sales conversations, is if you get someone to do something they weren't happy doing, or they felt manipulated or cajoled, or somehow, I've even seen people intimidate people into a sale, that's going to come back and bite you, because you're going to get a complaint, you're going to get, accusations of pressure. Mis-selling is quite often something I see quite often. Salespeople promising a lot more than they can deliver, and the operations then complaining, hold on a minute, the only reason we've got this issue is because the salespeople have over promised what we can and can't do. And then you end up with what I think is just this cascade of poor, you've got goodwill. What would be the opposite of that? Bad will? Do you know what I mean? It's like, that leaves everybody with a bad taste in their mouth rather than a customer delight. And I think also when you do something, you've promised someone something and you've delivered to their expectations or a little bit beyond, they have delight, you feel valued, you get paid, that money goes to cover some bills and maybe leave you something left over if all goes well. But then it becomes a nurturing experience for everyone involved. I think that's very entrepreneurial. I think that kind of providing value. If you're going to make pizzas, make really great pizzas that people are going to talk about, create an atmosphere, source your ingredients, train your staff. In other words, care. We talked about this within natural law, haven't we? Is what you care about will show. Whereas poor, business owners, because not everyone who owns a business is entrepreneurial. They may run a business, but they're not very entrepreneurial. And I would say that sometimes the experience that you have as a customer or even as a staff member is very lackluster and kind of meh. Would you go there again? Meh. It's like, why would you do anything that leaves people less than satisfied? Because that's part of the joy of doing it, isn't it? When you do something, like if you're going to make cocktails, here, Shulagh, I've just made you a pina colada, boom, umbrella, cherry, give it to you and you go, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that wow is part of the whole experience, isn't it? That's the thing and then I've made you go, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's like an exchange of value rather than thinking of getting a thing in return for money. Like the value goes both ways, and it's not just about the money.
No. And you don't. And the other thing is, I mean, this is the thing I say to people. Look, if you think about it, it costs a certain amount to produce any product or service, and a little bit on the top that you get to keep is comparative to the whole cost of it. Say, whatever it is. I mean, there's very few businesses where your cost is very low, and I'm just saying, it's like, so what you actually get out of it is actually a very small amount. So there's no way that money, as a proportion of whatever you've just done as a unit of service or product delivery, is going to fulfill you. The money bit is very small. So where else can people talk about triple bottom line, but I think personal satisfaction is a very, very important part of what it is to be entrepreneurial. Is like to take satisfaction, and it's kind of good karma. It's good consequentialism we talked about, haven't we? It's kind of, you put good stuff out, good stuff comes back. You keep disappointing people, letting them down, conning them, misrepresenting what you're going to deliver. That's kind of putting out this series of bad will, not goodwill. And I think
if you don't enjoy what you do, you just put out, that goes out with that same energy, and it might not show on the surface, but I think at a deeper level, people do pick that up.
Yeah,
they do sense it.
So maybe I'll just have a little turn of thought here, because I like to stay liquid as much as I can. These entrepreneurs are making a difference, and I definitely do. And I think if you're running a business in an entrepreneurial way, and you're dealing with you're considering leadership and communication and brand values, and you're putting goodwill into the world, that is a really great thing. I think it's a fantastic, honourable thing to do. And it has massive value beyond money. It has karmic value, I'd say.
I think so, and I think it's even more important now. We were talking earlier about haircuts and things like that. I think you said on our last call, no one will change the world with a haircut. But as I thought more about it, and it's been in the news a lot about all these modifications hairdressing salons will have to make, and people won't be able to sit in the waiting room, read magazines, and everyone's got to wear masks and all this business. Like the experience of going and having a haircut now, for me, actually sounds quite traumatic. because, I used to go to the salon and have like the works done, cut, colour, chat with my stylist and the girls in there, and, drink a cup of tea. And it was something I used to do to enjoy and wind down, and it was something I look forward to. Now it's going to be something that is actually a horrible experience, which I don't want to have to put myself through. So those hairdressers that are prepared to, I won't say break the rules, but those hairdressers that can now provide a service that still gives me those kind of warm, fuzzy feelings, and breaks down the barriers that have been put in place, I will pay more for that. And I suspect there are going to be a lot more women out there who would do the same.
That's interesting. I guess how our products and services and our whole fabric of our society will look during this COVID period and post, whatever that will be, is something that I guess people of our vintage will have memory of it being different. But imagine if you're growing up as a young person today, your early memories disappear pretty. I mean, they're there, formative, but they soon, it will be a normal experience for them to be living in these conditions. So that is kind of, I don't know, it just gave me a real sinking feeling. That did actually really kind of not a nice feeling, and also, when you go to good restaurants or good bars, or you go to good hair, or somewhere where you feel welcomed and loved, there's always some hand shaking and an arm around there's, we like to kiss each other when we see people we like, there's a lot of social habits that we are now very, very conscious of, where we'd normally just give someone a hug or even a formal business meeting, you start off with a handshake.
And those
weird.
Businesses that you frequent, there are places where you know the staff, you're on first name terms with them, you might even be classed as one of their valued customers, and you do have that personal relationship, you have that rapport, which, could even be called friends to an extent.
Absolutely.
So to have that distance kind of put artificially between you is quite...
I think, and also if there's a lot of businesses, like beautician, hairdressers, massage, sportsman, any kind of, Reiki or any kind of heal, a lot of it is kind of hands-on, and people actually physically, touching each other. And to think that those things are going to be made, for now, I don't know how or when they'll come back, or will they, given this current, I'm going to call it tyranny, because that's what I think it is.
Agreed.
It's a complete affront on human freedoms. It's going to be interesting to see that. So let's get back to entrepreneurship as a subject. Do you think what I was thinking about this earlier? How are entrepreneurship going to help us through this COVID? Now, what I'm not interested in is what I've seen is like the hairdresser who puts up a panel to put his hands through, and where, I don't mean those kind of solutions. I don't mean those kind of solutions, but what other innovations could happen? Maybe I do mean that. Maybe that's just my own personal. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's like I don't want to see that come in, but I'm also sure that creative, innovative ideas will evolve new types of businesses or new types of services that maybe we probably would never have seen had this not come up. I don't know what that would be though.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a conflict, because certainly from my perspective, I didn't agree with any of the lockdown measures from the start. It's completely, halted my work and the work of all the other people involved in the dance community who run the clubs and the classes. Obviously none of that is happening except online, and there's a very real chance what we're the possible demise of a lot of pubs and clubs and, the venues that we were used to holding these events in. They're going to have their own sort of rules and regulations in place in terms of how they decide who to let in and who not to going forward, if we have all this nonsense with temperature checks and social distancing. And salsa is a close dance, so I think a lot of people haven't quite realised that if it comes back at all, it's going to be a very, very different animal. And you then get into the realms of having to actually change the nature of the thing for it to happen.
Yeah,
and that worries me.
Yeah, just hearing you say it makes me is turning my stomach, because those industries, whether it's dance or physical therapies, or just go to a good nightclub, everyone's bumping up against each other. That was part of the experience. That's what we grew up with. And to think that those things, even the camaraderie of how we would, I don't know, just the whole thing feels very, very odd. It's really sad at a very core level of what it is to be human. It really is.
It is. And Latin dance, it comes obviously from Latin culture. And so when you start changing that dance to fit the rules, then it becomes not that culture anymore, it becomes something else.
So not that you'd have any key idea on this, but how are people going to date? How are they going to go? How do how are people going to meet each other and start relationships?
Well, this is something I've been wondering, because I'm in the boat at the moment where, before all this got underway, I was just starting to go out and meet guys myself. I'm single at the moment, don't really want to be single forever.
Subscribe. like. Yeah, but it's interesting, isn't it? Because that's how we meet our partners. Quite often that's how you get referred for a job. It's by being around people and engaging with people. I mean, this idea of going into a social environment and everyone's, 2 meters apart, 2.5 meters apart, 1 meter apart. The whole thing is it's just doing my head in. I mean, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm imagining a scenario where, and I was never into the idea of dating websites or anything like that, but I'm imagining a scenario where that becomes even more essential, and you get to the point where you kind of have to meet someone in these very cold clinical environments, and
it sounds very,
and it's not conducive to.
Okay, look, these we've kind of covered that kind of more close businesses, but my view is this: I think we're going to lose a lot of businesses.
I think we are.
I don't know, that's a radical thing, and I've been business consulting for 10 years. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, and I've been seeing the economy, especially at the level of SME, owner-operated businesses and small businesses, because we own a small business in Hertford, and seeing Hertford, it looks like Hertford's a lovely town. It's middle England, it's middle class, it's I think it was in the top 10 most happiest places to live in England at one point. But the point I'm making is that you walk down the street now, the pubs aren't there, the restaurants aren't there, the small little retail boutique shops are all still shut. The takeaways, they're kind of there. But if we're not going to weddings, and we're not going on dates, and we're not going to business networking events, and we're not going to seminars and conferences and whatever, then how do you support just the high street, whether it's small market towns or even how there's place. I remember driving through France, and you go through certain towns and everything's closed, and you ask people, where is everyone? They go, all the young people have left. They've all left because there's nothing here for them. And I can see that happening. I don't want to see it happening, but I think we were already going that way because of Amazon and online shopping, online dating, online teaching, online blah blah blah, online. Does that mean everyone's going to be sitting at home and our whole, we're a nation of pubs and shops? That's what we are.
I think it's going to be very difficult, like because of this social distancing, for pubs and bars and restaurants to be profitable, because they simply won't be able to have as many people in the place at any one time. The ambience isn't going to be there, and I think for that reason, what I used to like about nights out was, even not just the people I was with, but it was that random interaction that you would often have. You get chatting to a couple on the table next door, or that kind of thing that was spontaneous and unplanned. And I think all the spontaneity is going to go out of these places.
What would you have to do? Do you have to go, here's my certificate, I'm okay, you can come closer? Or you can have a conversation? I don't know what it's going to, I'm just like...
No, I don't know what it's going to look like, but the way everyone's talking, I think that's a very likely scenario at some point. I think, the airlines are talking about temperature checks before you board a plane. I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility to expect that kind of thing before you step into a restaurant or a bar or something eventually.
I got suddenly very sad, Shulagh.
I've been feeling sad about it for some time.
Yeah, but I mean, like a real kind of stomach kind of dread about it, because I think to myself, well, we've we're at an age where we've had really, we've had the lives we've had, but we've had as good a life as any human being on this planet has had. Power, water, freedom of movement, travel, and we've had these experiences. And I just think, we're of an age where I don't need to be out every night. I don't need to be socialising. I don't need more friends, But the thought of, say, our children or the next generation coming through with that as their norm, how quickly will they just accept? Well, they will, won't they? They will have to just, that's how it is. And then that generation will move on. We'll be like in our 60s and 70s. And, I remember you go out, you go and talk to a girl. You go and talk to her, you buy her a drink and you'd ask her name. Sound all Jewish there, but do you know what I mean? But that's
the kids would look all shocked because that's not allowed.
No, you have to do your profile, and then you have to send your photo over, then your certificates, then you can meet with very sad.
It is.
I think we've gone off the subject a bit.
But I think going back to entrepreneurship, I think it is going to be versatility and creativity.
Well, that's what That's what they're known for. That's what That's what you'd expect from an entrepreneur. I mean, I've been, this little business we've got here. We've had it since '95, and it had its heyday probably about 10 years ago, maybe earlier, and it's just, it kind of grew, and then it's just been, and now it's kind of like flatlining, And I'm thinking, what else could I do with it? What else could I do? And do we rechange it completely? What can we do to innovate? And it's kind of like everything. It's almost like at the moment, the way it occurs to me is all the opportunities been squeezed out. As in, well, retail's decimated. People can't socialise like they used to. So where I'm going in my mind of what's going to be, it's a new paradigm. I guess it's a totally new way of living. That what's going to be required is still just emerging. Still, we don't necessarily know. So I can't. I'm like, part of me feels like, you know what? I just want to check out now. I don't mean, but just get away from it and just like, you know what? I don't know. That sounds a bit defeatist, doesn't it?
I know what you mean, because like when the lockdown started, I kind of had my ideas as to where this was all going to go. And at that point, I was thinking, should I just shut the studio now and be done with it? And, try and do something else. But thinking about it, with the dance scene as it is right now, who knows when clubs will, or if they ever will, reopen, there might just be a little window in there where I can have a few months of doing some good, creating some connection, and being able to bring some people together.
Do you know if there's I don't know, an island or a country somewhere where they haven't followed these rules? Maybe, you just kind of relocate and go somewhere else and say, right, well, I don't know whether it's Venezuela or Costa Rica or I don't know, somewhere like islandy and beautiful, and just go, right, I'm going to go live there because they're still living of what seems to be a bare minimum of what it is to be human life. Because I think this whole connect, because we have a very Eurocentric view, don't we? I mean, we're British, there's that, and then we are part of Europe, and we know some countries haven't locked down. We know some states in America didn't lock down, and maybe that's what we've got to do. Is like,
maybe that is the answer.
The thing I have been thinking of is what it would look like to maybe live an off-grid type of lifestyle. Get us off-grid, get us self-sufficient, and live a life where you grow as much of your own food, you can generate whatever power you can generate, and really need very little from the wider society, and maybe build little communities that want to live that way. So let's say I grow certain things and you grow different things, or you're good at fixing stuff and I've got potatoes and my fridge doesn't work, you fix my fridge, I'll give you a couple of pounds of spuds, and it's a good exchange. And I think that's what I've been thinking about.
Yeah.
Like a real back, like going way back in what it is to trade and swap skills and barter, and because that's how we lived for centuries.
It's one of the reasons I decided to move to this farmhouse. A, I'm going to be near my family. B, there's 3 acres of land and a greenhouse. So I met some other ladies for the picnic last week locally. We were talking about, because they're all into growing stuff as well. So we're working along the lines of getting a little sort of growing community together. And I think it's now the time to start building those local networks and working out ways to do this.
Like you don't really need much, really. I mean, if you look at, I think Chris Sherlock and I, he was telling me about abject poverty and relative poverty. So, and if I apologise if I got this wrong, but relative poverty is like being homeless in England, you got no money. And if you notice in England, when people are homeless, they sleep on the streets. Abject poverty is somewhere like being in a little village in Africa with nothing, but you're not homeless. You've got your home, there's a little river nearby, or there's a well where you have to go and get water, but it's a different type of poverty. When you kind of break it down to what you actually really need to live, you don't need a lot. If you look at your daily calorie intake, say 2,500 calories a day, I know in some parts of the world that's quite a challenge, but in anywhere that, say where you are now, that wouldn't be a big stretch, would it? I mean, it wouldn't be easy because it's not something we've done for 10 years. So, you've got probably a couple of years of learning, and who knows, maybe there's a lot more to it than that. But when you look at it beyond that, what do you really need? You don't need a lot.
No, I mean, the things that make me feel happiest are when, there's big fields, green space, and I can hear the birds sing and I can walk along the beach. If I have that, then, apart from a little bit of food, I'm happy.
I think, you know what, I mean, maybe it's taken a while to get to that point. I think I feel the same. Going back to entrepreneurship, and also I think a lot of businesses I've kind of consulted, you go into a business, they want more sales, they want to grow. I'm like, why do you need to grow? Why does the business have to grow? What, bigger house, more holidays, more consumption? Like growing the business for the sake of consumption is something that I've never really agreed with. But and also, why do you need 10 branches when probably 2 would make you a good living? Do 2 really well. There's no shame in that. It's like, but there's this kind of underlying, in my opinion, that I've seen with entrepreneurs, is this desire to always want more and more and more. And I don't think they kind of realise that there's no satisfaction in it. You know, there's actually.
I think people got very attracted by the idea of the six-figure income, that kind of thing. I think that was a real draw for a lot of people. They didn't really necessarily know why they wanted it, but it sounded good, and they had the images of the fast cars and the big houses and the fantastic paradise beach holidays and that kind of stuff. But
I think there's an underpinned with a lack of self-worth and unfulfillment. I used to be into hi-fi growing up. I used to buy the hi-fi mags, and I'd sit there on Sunday with my hi-fi playing, listening to music while reading the reviews. And by the time I finished reading the reviews, I wanted to buy another bit of equipment or upgrade a part of my equipment. And do you remember the song, the Sunscreen song?
Oh yeah.
And he says, "Don't buy beauty magazines; they only make you feel ugly." And I think that's where we've been so conditioned that whatever car we've got, whatever clothes we've got, whatever house we've got, whatever body we've got, whatever partner we've got, whatever we've got, it's not good enough. There's something better, and you need to be, black is the new orange is the new black, or oh, you're still driving, blah, blah, blah. You should be driving, And I feel since I kind of abdicated all that crap, you don't even need a car. You don't even need a hi-fi. You just look at everything in a way that it's a lot more freeing and less demanding to want more and more. And one of the things that I've been quite, when I work with business owners, look, you're not going to be more satisfied with a bigger business. It's just going to be more hassle, more headache, and you can't handle it because you don't have the communication skills. You've got to do a lot of work on yourself to really grow a business to a certain level where you are actually enjoying it. So why don't we talk about what it would take for you to feel free? I mean, that's got to be worth a lot. Like develop your communication skills so you don't have to be in the business every day. Develop your people and your leadership skills so they can take things on when you're not around and reward them for it. Isn't your freedom more valuable than a bigger house and, electric gates and more holidays? Because they're not really, there isn't that much in those things. There comes a point where they're not actually that fulfilling.
Yeah, I mean, this lockdown has in some ways been a huge lesson for me because being able to take the foot off the gas and have the time and have the space and do some real soul searching about what mattered to me and, getting back to the things that I was most passionate about. And obviously I do miss the dancing, I miss it tons, but just getting back to the real bare essentials of who I am and what I actually need and what I enjoy, it's opened up some different possibilities. And that I'm actually quite excited about.
Yeah. And I think if we get off this GDP thing and, gross domestic product, I mean, that was the thing they introduced during, I think it was the First or Second World War to measure how much stuff they could throw out of the factories, right? And maybe when you're at war, that's an important thing to measure. Fine, I get it. But really, how much stuff we can sell, how much stuff we can move, how much product we can. I couldn't care less anymore. I'm like, let's not sell so much stuff. Let's sell less stuff, but better stuff. Let's make stuff that lasts 10 years, not 5 years. Let's take less out of the ground and provide more value to the planet and the people. And there's a really fantastic book, Shulagh, I think I've recommended it before, Peter Joseph, The New Human Rights Movement. And it talks a lot about, built obsolescence and things like that. Manufacturing, making, building the new model car and the new model car and this gadget and that gadget. And I always say to people, does it drive any better? And they go, no, but it's got this little gadget here and it's got this pop-up thing. I'm like, but does it drive better? No, it doesn't. Most cars don't drive much better than they did 20 years ago. I mean, they do a bit. But the point I'm making is, it's still a mode of transport. In fact, I'd rather drive a 1990s car because they're probably more interested to drive than most modern cars today.
I'd rather ride a horse.
Even better. Yeah, or a bicycle or whatever. Yeah, unicycle. You know what I mean? It's like there's more. I used to have a really old kind of rally sports car. I love that. And those cars 5-10 times its value, faster cars, all that stuff. But you get in that, and every time I drove it was it didn't leave me wanting. It's going back to the hi-fi story. You know, if all our marketing and all our manipulation of people is to get them to think whatever they've got isn't good enough and they should buy something else. That for me, you know, I think, was it Bill Hicks talks about kill marketing people, you know, just kill them. Just kill them. I'm not joking. Just kill them. You know, and I think there's a legit, you know, not necessarily killing them, but kill the industry, kill marketing, kill sales. Let's focus on tremendous value, longevity, sustainable consumption. You know, because we
and
do
just
consume.
connecting people again. I think this is going to be the big thing going forward, because after, you know, everyone's been sort of hiding behind masks and staying away from each other for so long, you know, communication and connection is going to be even more valued and even more important. And maybe it'll even be even more recognised as a skill.
I've just written that down. I think you've really nailed something there. I think what really matters is going to matter, like in a way it's never done before. Whereas I think before, what really mattered could be ignored, could be pushed aside. But now you've got to stop and ask yourself, well, what's my life about, and what's really important? What is really valuable? You know, and I think we've learned a lot from the Mark Passio stuff, you know. And there's this thing he talks about money, you know, not fiat currency, but real money is knowledge. You know, learning what is really important things, not, you know, how many bullshit jobs are out there, how many bullshit businesses are out there, and they almost exist for no reason. You know, sometimes I look at some businesses and what they sell and do. You know, if this disappeared off the face of the planet, it wouldn't be a loss to anybody. I mean, obviously, there's those people who make their income from it, but other than that, it doesn't provide anything. You know, banking could be one of those industries. It does not provide anything. It just leeches off the human spirit and the human, you know, corporations don't make anything. Human beings make stuff. We provide their value. In fact, this is what I train my daughters. First of all, you've got your thoughts, then you've got resources, right? And then you've got, you know, labor and work. That's all you've got. The rest of it is, there's nothing else. There's ideas, resources, and our effort. And everything we've got, all the value we've ever created is from those three things. There's nothing else. If you think about it, there is nothing else. Money as it exists today, this fiat currency, doesn't add anything to that. So I think it's time for entrepreneurs to become rebels, to start saying, you know, we want a better world. We've got to start thinking like a rebel or an activist or a progressive. You've got to start challenging what I think is a rotten system. You know,
I think we have got to be prepared to start challenging these rules, rather than looking at how we can adapt what we do to fit the rules and kind of bow down to the stuff that's being brought in and conform. I think we have to be prepared to challenge them and get back in touch with the people who are our customers, and not persuade them what they need, but just get them questioning, do they really want this new normal? You know, entrepreneurs have always led the way.
So time to get their fingers out and start challenging the system. Because the system's pushing on them. It's pushing on all of us now. I think if we don't challenge it and start to rebut it and get informed and do your research, you're getting in the way, or you're going to be left behind, or you're going to, I don't know, it's going to be, or we end up all rolled into this, you know, new vaccine system, track and trace, ID 2020, universal basic income, and that's it. That's it. It's over. It's over.
I was always told, or I always kind of got the impression that people were telling me it was selfish to follow your dreams. And I think that the crux point has come, because if you don't hang on to those dreams, then they are going to be literally taken away from you very, very soon. And, you know, since all this began, I've had lots of accusations because, you know, having to shut my studio, I did post a lot on Facebook about the things that were happening, and people were like, oh, you're just being selfish. What about all those people that were dying. You could go fruit picking. And I'm like, well, yeah, I could, but why would I want to go fruit picking for anyone else? And I think entrepreneurship has always been about retaining that autonomy,
Yeah, I'd
keeping
say
that
that.
control over your own life.
I think this is your number one freedom. Your number one value is freedom, if I remember right.
It is.
And I think that's what a lot of entrepreneurs or business owners go into it for, is to have freedom. And the very thing that everybody really is starting to see how valuable it is. Freedom isn't given. You've got to take it and you've got to fight for it and you've got to keep it. And you've got to have the wherewithal to understand what's going on and understand what's threatening that freedom, to know how to deal with the challenge. And I think that's where I think a lot of entrepreneurs are missing those skills. They're missing really understanding what's going on around them, as opposed to just building a business. And no matter how much integrity that business has, if it doesn't challenge what's happening around you right now, then you're living in a kind of ignorance. You're ignoring what's happening around you. Look, we've been going about an hour, I think.
Yeah.
Shall we sum up?
Yeah, that would be good.
So do you want to go first, or shall I?
Yeah, I think what I want to say is I think we've got to stop waiting for things to happen. Stop waiting for things to happen to us and start happening ourselves. I think that's the way out of this, if there is still a way out. I would also, if anyone is curious about what's going to be happening down the pipe with regards to like global business, I've been digging into the World Economic Forum website just lately, and beneath all the kind of strange language and phrases that they use on there is a lot of information, and you'll start to see very quickly that all the stuff that the so-called conspiracy theorists have been talking about is not conspiracy. Like, it's all there on these websites.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a video.
It's the same with the 2030 agenda as well. It's all there. It's not actually hidden. You have to decipher it, though.
There was a video the other day with Prince Charles and a few other key people in, and it's quite long. It's about an hour and a half. I watched the whole thing through, but Nick Stern was talking about how he saw things and, wanting a greener solution, all the rest of it. And he was talking about profitable solutions to problems of people and planet. And by that, I don't think he meant the problems that the people and the planet were having. His tone was like, the people and the planet are the problem.
And I think you'll say the people, because I think this whole, population reduction agenda, whether it's through vaccines or all the other things that have been going on for decades, is causing all sorts of health issues with people. And we're seeing life. Forget COVID. I mean, if you still look at the top killers, there's still heart disease, and there's Alzheimer's, and there's all sorts of other conditions. That cancer's been on the rise for year on year. So yeah, I think just commenting on from what you said, is that I think the entrepreneur of today has to almost be an activist first, and then use entrepreneurship as a way of delivering it. Like, you have to be really well informed and then deliver, society, impactful products and services that challenge the status quo.
Because if people buy into us, then they'll fight for us. That's the other thing. It's very difficult to stand alone at the moment on anything. But if people buy into you and your service, your story, and you create that connection, then, that builds communities. And with communities, we've got numbers.
Yeah, I mean, just being back in this, this little shop we've had since '95, and talking to customers, they're like, "I'm so glad you're back. It's so good to see you here. You're going to be able to survive." I'm like, if you keep using us, if you keep coming back and we're relevant and valid and required, then yeah. How many people you hear today say, I bought this and this and this on Amazon? I'm like, don't use Amazon. And all guilty, we're all complicit, whether it's Amazon or another big online retailer, is if you don't use the SME business, or you don't buy from other human beings, you buy from big corporates, then the writing's on the wall. You can't on one level say we want to see small business survive and then don't use them. And the reality is these big corporates are usually cheaper, they're quicker, they're more convenient, and it's hard to compete with that level of, what Amazon's invested in their business is billions. How can a small business, so if we don't use them, we're going to see them go. So my view on entrepreneurship is activism and informed, be as informed as you can get. And if what you do for a living provides value that is like we talk about the truth being belligerent, but your value should also be belligerent to an extent. It's almost like it has to be that level of value that people couldn't, because right now there's a lot of reasons not to buy or do anything and just sit back and wait. And if we're coming out of this consumption for the sake of consumption phase, then we've got to be of tremendous value to everybody we serve in a way that, if Shulagh doesn't come this week, don't worry, another customer will come. No, if Shulagh doesn't come back this week, you might not get another, you don't know. So if you actually look at every customer as a intricate, valuable part of your business, as opposed to just another, consumer, then I think how we view ourselves, our team, our products and services, and the relevance of it is going to be critical.
Tapping into the human value.
Yeah, and sustainable. As in sustainable, is like actually, how often businesses encourage us to buy more, and no, I don't think I think that model is finished. Buy something that will last you. As a consumer as well, buy brilliant products. Demand more of the services and products you buy because they need to last longer, be better. They don't end up in, they buy crap for the sake of it to end up in landfill. But don't buy things that don't make you happy.
That's a very good.
Do you know what I mean? It's like if you're going to buy something, make sure it's something that's going to enhance your life or that of the people around you, rather than just buy something for the sake of it.
Something that you enjoy using, engaging with, looking at, and something that you can actually treasure.
Yeah. I mean, I've got...
And I think...
No, sorry. I've got this bottle opener.
Go on.
Wine bottle opener. And it's heavy, cast. And I've had it, I think, 20 years. And I don't know what it cost. It wasn't cheap. But I've had it 20 years. And it'll probably last another 20 years. It'll probably be something I pass on to my... Here, kids, who wants this bottle? This, you know the ones I mean, the ones that go like that. And just so don't buy a £3 bottle opener. Buy a £10 bottle opener. And it will last long enough to pass it on to your... that your kids will go, oh, my dad gave... Or imagine my granddad used to use this bottle opener. I mean, that's what I think.
Yeah, that's something with real value.
Yeah. So I think this throwaway culture has taken its toll on us. Yeah. So anything else left? I mean, we kind of covered a lot. Are we good to finish, or do you want to say anything else?
Yeah, no, I was just going to follow up with what you said then about in marketing terms, and I know like marketing, dirty word, but from that perspective, educating people better about the provenance of what we sell and, the story behind what we provide. That's going to be key in getting people to engage with our businesses.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, and it has to have
integrity. We have to learn to do that better.
Yeah, and I don't think it's that complex. I think if you've got real moral fibre in what you do, and it has, if you're going to make whatever you make it the best you can. Obviously, there's price points. If you've got you want to hit a low value, medium, high, just make the best possible product you can make for what you charge for it, because there's honour in that. There's for me, it's like there's honour in doing as good a job as you can, and there's pride in it. That's what I've got to say to entrepreneurs: is challenge the system, create a great, outstanding product that has long-term value, and be relevant. It has to be relevant beyond just consumer and desire and novelty. That's what I think.
I think that's a really good note to finish on.
Yeah. So listen, guys, if you've been watching myself and Shulagh this is a part of the Beyond Mainstream videos, which is our part 2 of Does Entrepreneurship Change the World? And please subscribe, like what we're doing, share it, ask us some questions. If you want to find us on Facebook, it's Facebook.com/Beyond Mainstream, and we're also on the Mighty Network as well. So look us up on Mighty Network and search out Beyond Mainstream. You'll find us there. Thank you, Shulagh. It's been a delight as usual. Maybe one day you'll give me a dance lesson. I hope I won't step on your toes too much.
I look forward to it.
Take care. Bye.
And hopefully it won't be on Zoom either.
No. Take care. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.